On March 17th, Venezuela's stock market had already risen from about 2,000 points when Nicolás Maduro was arrested to 6,893 points. Some Chinese netizens asked, if China's Xi Jinping were arrested, could the A-share market rise to 10,000 points? Others commented, if Xi Jinping steps down, China's stock market could surge to 10,000 points. If the Communist Party steps down, it could surge to 100,000 points. Data from Gelonghui showed that after Maduro was arrested and reforms were pushed under U.S. pressure, Venezuela's stock market rose by a total of 61% in January, ranking first among major global markets. In February, it surged another 82.77%, again ranking first in the world. Chinese netizens reacted by saying, Venezuela's surgery was a success. It has been reborn. Venezuela is great again. And when will we see gains like this? One netizen said, in China, we're still being harvested like leeks. Who is doing the harvesting? The national team is doing it aggressively. Since the Russia-Ukraine war until now, China's stock market has ranked near the bottom globally. Even so, they keep talking about a long-term slow bull market. The economy has grown for 17 years, yet the stock market has been stuck defending the 3,000-point level for 17 years. Now, suddenly they say a long bull market has begun? When it falls, they blame the international situation. When it rises, they say it's because of confidence in China's bright economic future. Entering February and March, China's stock market hovered between 3,950 and 4,100 points. On March 20th, the Shanghai Composite Index fluctuated downward, losing its half-year moving average and falling below the key 4,000-point level. Total trading volume in the Shanghai and Shenzhen markets reached 2.29 trillion yuan, an increase of 175.9 billion yuan from the previous trading day. More than 4,700 stocks across the market fell for 2 consecutive days. Overall, capital has continued to flow out of China's A-share market. Rough estimates show that from February to mid-March, major funds saw a net outflow of about 800 billion to 1.2 trillion yuan. From March 17th to 19th, daily outflows remained high. For example, over 60 billion yuan on March 17th and nearly 70 billion yuan on March 19th. Showing that sustained pressure as funds exit the market. Since the end of 2022, when pandemic controls were lifted, the Chinese Communist Party has strongly promoted the idea that China's economy is continuing to grow. However, for many ordinary people, living standards have declined, and consumption has downgraded. At the same time, authorities have continued to suppress outspoken scholars who reveal the real economic situation. For example, Gao Shanwen, former chief economist at SDIC Securities, left his position earlier. He had stated late last year that China's actual GDP growth over the past 2 or 3 years may have been around 2%, while the official figure was close to 5%. On March 16th, state media published another commentary, criticizing what it called the China collapse theory and the China threat theory in foreign media. It said that such claims should be countered promptly. China analyst Yue Shan said this response shows anxiety and urgency within the Chinese Communist Party. He said that several years have already passed since the pandemic, yet the Chinese economy continues to weaken. By contrast, Venezuela is now described as thriving, with positive developments continuing to emerge after its dictator Maduro was taken away by U.S. forces. On March 18th, in a championship game of the World Baseball Classic, Venezuela defeated the United States 3-2 to win its first title in history. The total prize pool for this year's tournament reached $37 million, the highest ever. As the champion, Venezuela received $6.75 million, making it the biggest winner. At the award ceremony, all the Venezuelan coaches and players had tears in their eyes as they sang the national anthem out loud. At the moment of victory, huge cheers erupted across Venezuela. The atmosphere was electric. Streets were packed with people waving national flags, beating drums, honking horns, and celebrating this historic win. That same day, Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, announced on social media that the next day would be declared a national day of celebration. She said, "I've decided to decree tomorrow as National Day of Joy, a non-working day, except for essential service workers, so that our youth can go out to the streets, plazas, parks, and ball fields to celebrate." U.S. President Donald Trump also posted on Truth Social, saying, "Statehood." Earlier, after Venezuela defeated Italy in the WBC, Trump had joked that Venezuela had been enjoying a series of good events lately and asked whether it might be interested in becoming the 51st state of the United States. Taiwanese financial media chairman Xi Jinping wrote on Facebook that Maduro being arrested and taken to the United States for trial represents an unprecedented opportunity to change the country's future. After the collapse of Maduro's government, Venezuela is entering a new phase, and winning the WBC could be the beginning of a turnaround. He pointed out that Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. If these resources are properly developed and profits are returned to the people instead of going to the private accounts of Maduro and his associates, the country could achieve a major transformation. He also said that Trump is now focusing on America's backyard, and that Venezuela and Cuba are the two countries most worth watching. If their systems change, the opportunities for reconstruction could bring new possibilities to the world. The fighting spirit shown by Venezuelan players also reflects their hope for a fresh start. Some Chinese netizens made comparisons to China, joking, if the US military captured Xi Jinping, maybe China's struggling soccer would finally take off too. As a country with a large population, China's football problems did not appear overnight. They have built up over many years and are widely seen as deeply rooted and difficult to fix. Criticism is overwhelming, and many people feel there's almost no way to turn things around. On September 5, 2024, in the Asian qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup, China's men's national team played away against Japan in their first Group C match and lost 0-7. This was the worst defeat in China's history in World Cup qualifying matches. On June 5, 2025, in the 9th round of the same qualifying stage, China lost 0-1 away to Indonesia, completely missing out on the 2026 World Cup. After that, they also lost to teams like Saudi Arabia and Australia. Their results were poor, and their FIFA ranking once fell to around 94th in the world, placing them below even many second- and third-tier Asian teams. China's leader Xi Jinping says he enjoys and values football. However, the system has long emphasized politics over the sport itself. In recent years, there have been major crackdowns on corruption within football management, while at the same time stressing political loyalty. Critics believe that running sports through political priorities goes against the spirit of sports and only makes performance worse. Now let's look back at Venezuela. Venezuela and the United States had long been in tense relations. In January 2019, during Trump's first term, the United States and several other countries refused to recognize the re-election of Nicolás Maduro and instead supported opposition leader Juan Guaido. The two countries then cut diplomatic ties and closed their embassies. In January, after Maduro was captured by U.S. forces, his deputy, Delcy Rodriguez, became interim president. The Trump administration later notified Congress that it would gradually reopen the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. U.S. officials have since visited the Venezuelan capital multiple times, and relations between the two countries have begun to improve. On March 5th, the U.S. Department of State announced that it had reached an agreement with Venezuela's interim government. They will begin restoring diplomatic and consular relations. The U.S. plans to gradually support Venezuela's democratic transition and create conditions for a peaceful move toward an elected government. On the same day, U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum conducted a 2-day visit. He said his talks with interim President Rodriguez were very positive and revealed that Venezuela has committed to ensuring the safety of foreign mining investments. Venezuela is rich in mineral resources, but much of its infrastructure needs repair and large amounts of investment for expansion and upgrades. Burgum said that dozens of American companies have already expressed interest in investing, which could bring jobs to the country. On March 4th, President Trump also posted that Venezuela's interim leadership was performing well and said the country's oil exports are gradually recovering. Amid the backdrop of tensions in the Middle East and global energy crisis, the U.S. Treasury Department announced that it would ease economic sanctions on Venezuela. This includes allowing U.S. companies to import Venezuelan fertilizer and oil, helping to reduce price pressures on American farmers and consumers. On the morning of March 14th, the U.S. flag was raised once again at the U.S. Embassy in Caracas for the first time in 7 years. On March 18th, interim President Rodriguez announced on social media that she had removed longtime Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez and appointed General Gustavo González Lopez as his replacement. Vladimir Padrino Lopez has served as defense minister since 2014. He was a key ally of former President Nicolás Maduro and an important figure in the military. He held the position for more than 10 years. Commentator Cao Changqing said that this marks a major change in the country. He pointed out that Padrino Lopez was appointed during Maduro's time and had opposed Maduro being captured by the United States. Removing him signals that Venezuela is moving further towards cooperation with the U.S. He said this move was likely made made under pressure from Donald Trump, noting that the U.S. had previously offered a $15 million reward for information related to drug trafficking networks tied to Maduro's circle. In his view, the changes in Venezuela reflect a broader strategy by Trump: capture the leader first and force change without a prolonged war. Meanwhile, in China, after Maduro and his wife were captured, some Chinese netizens, despite strict online censorship, hinted that they hoped something similar would happen to Xi Jinping. Comments appeared online, saying, "People in China have been waiting in line so long our legs are numb. America, hurry up." On short video platforms, many scrolling comments included messages like SOS and Save Me. Overseas Chinese netizens discussed it more openly, saying things like, "It would be great if the U.S. did the same thing to the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping," and "Today it's Maduro, tomorrow it's Xi Jinping." Recently, a list titled, "As Long as He Remains in Power," has been shared widely online. It outlines about 30 points describing the damage Xi Jinping's leadership has caused to China, portraying a broad decline in politics, the economy, and society. Some of the points include, as long as he remains in power, the economic engine will continue to rust, and ordinary people will struggle through hard times. Restrictions on speech will keep expanding, and fairness and justice will disappear. Environmental protection will only become empty slogans, leaving future generations to pay the price. Neighboring countries will grow more wary, making peace harder to achieve. Power will override common sense, and the foundations of a civilized system will break down. The nation's future will feel like a stone sinking into a bottomless abyss, with no sign of light ahead. The person who shared the list said the impact of Xi's leadership has become so serious that even people within the system are privately asking, how much longer can this last? They added that the real question may not be what happens if he stays in power, but what will be left behind after he's gone. Veteran media figure Akio Yaita shared the list on social media, saying it was very detailed and worth reading. He also commented, "Some people in Taiwan are eager to meet Xi Jinping, but I think it's better not to deal with him." By some people in Taiwan, he was referring to Cheng Li-wen of the Kuomintang. As chair of the opposition party, she recently said in a meeting with Xi Jinping could take place between April and June. This has sparked controversy in Taiwan due to her pro-China stance. Under a post by Yaita, many commentators pointed out that simply replacing Xi Jinping would not be enough. One person wrote, "Even if it's not Xi, as long as the Chinese Communist Party remains a one-party dictatorship, the country will not get better." In fact, within China, many people have already formed a deep understanding of the ruling system. There is a growing desire among some for a new China without Communist Party rule. On October 25, 2025, in Beijing's Sanlitun area, someone hung 2 anti-communist banners on the street. The messages read, "The nature of the Communist Party is anti-human and anti-humanity. It will bring endless disaster to China. Lift the ban on political parties. Allow free organization of parties, free competition, and free choice. Build a new China based on freedom, humanity, and the rule of law." At the time, only photos were circulated. On March 18th, video footage from the incident surfaced overseas. Some netizens said they did not know whether the person who put up the banners was still safe, or what charges might have been brought against them. Because the information has been suppressed by authorities, the identity and fate of the individual remains unknown. In October 2022, before the 20th Party Congress, Peng Lifa hung protest banners on Beijing's Sitong Bridge. Since then, similar public acts of protests have continued to appear from time to time. Overseas, pro-democracy activists have also echoed calls to end Communist Party rule. On the evening of March 15th, U.S. Eastern Time, the human rights group China Action carried out a large-scale political projection on the outer wall of the Chinese consulate in New York. The projection presented a symbolic quality inspection of the Communist Party, concluding that it should be discarded. Despite interference from consulate personnel, the event went on as planned. Su Yutong said that from governing through misinformation to maintaining stability through force, and from censorship to transnational repression, the Communist Party is the root of systemic falsehoods in Chinese society. She said both Xi Jinping and the party should be thrown into the trash as harmful waste. Former Shenzhen lawyer Zhou Junhong previously described what China might look like after the fall of the Communist Party. She outlined 24 possible changes, including government officials losing special privileges, the introduction of multi-party competition, and public disclosure of officials' assets, opening up monopoly industries like telecom, oil, and electricity, lower tariffs making imported goods like cars more affordable, gradual implementation of universal free healthcare, freedom of the press and speech, protection of private property and private land ownership, judicial independence, a return of traditional beliefs, political reform, and integration into the democratic world, and placing the military under national rather than party control. Well-known human rights lawyer Gao Zhisheng has been missing for over 8 years, secretly drafted a constitutional proposal in 2017 while under house arrest. He called the future state the Federal Republic of China. He emphasized federalism, full decommunization, and strong protections for human rights and religious freedom. In the preamble, protecting freedom of religion was listed as one of the Constitution's core missions. Many observers believe that regardless of outside influence from countries like the United States, China's future ultimately depends on its own people. Australia-based scholar Yuan Hongbing said that there's no such thing as a free lunch. He argued that modern Chinese people must understand that saving their own future depends on themselves, not on others. If they lack the courage, wisdom, determination, and willingness to sacrifice, then no one else in the world can save them. He added that Chinese people should learn from the experiences of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, where systemic change came through widespread public resistance. Recently, during joint US-Israel strikes on Iran, both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu called on the Iranian people to seize the moment and change their government. Associate Professor Cheng Qimo of Tamkang University in Taiwan said that Iran's current regime appears to be nearing its end. He noted that Trump has consistently emphasized that a country's future should be decided by its own people, not imposed by outside forces. This, he said, offers an important lesson. A country must save itself. No one else can decide its future for it.